Dr. Jeffrey Halstead has been Canandaigua's hometown dentist for more than 35 years, offering routine dental care as well as cosmetic dentistry, implants, and dentures by their highly trained and experienced staff. Visit them online at canandaiguadentistry.com or find them on Facebook and Instagram.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome into the FL1 Betting Preview here on FingerLakes1.com. Paul Russo with Jim Sinicropi and Kyle Evans here as always. Guys, week 15 in the NFL, but personal favorite of mine as well, begins this weekend. Welcome to bowl season.
Bowl season begins.
So, hey, it's better than maybe last week where there wasn't just maybe an outright ton to talk about in the non-NFL scape, but nonetheless, another exciting weekend coming up with the NFL. It was an exciting weekend that was in the NFL. Maybe not so much collectively for our bets, but we'll get to that in a second. But other than that, everything been going good this week for you guys?
Yeah, I had an amazing Monday night. Of course, it was a doubleheader. And I liked the Giants. It seemed like a trap game, so I took the Giants. And then I also liked 14.5 from Tennessee, even though they were on the road, so I took that too. But then before I logged out of old DraftKings, I'm like, you know what? NFL's nuts, you know. I'm putting $5 on money line parlay, Giants-Titans.
Love it.
$5 to win 100 on that one, plus the other two wins. But it was a nice night, and it was fun because it looked at first like the Titans weren't going to win, obviously. And there was a moment where they might not even cover, but next thing you know, they win, and a nice plus 2,000 parlay win for me on Monday night.
The legend of Tommy Cutlets for you.
Yeah, I mean, he's the big news this week on TikTok and everything. Tommy DeVito, former Syracuse Orange.
How about it?
Quarterback.
Kyle, on the other hand, you got burned a little bit by Tommy Cutlets.
Yeah, I had Packers minus 6.5, and I kind of knew going into the fourth quarter that this doesn't look so good. Tommy DeVito played well at home, of course. What is he, 3-1 as a starter now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but on top of those Monday night games, remember, we had two very low-scoring spreads. Remember last Thursday night, it was the Patriots-Steelers. That went over in the third quarter.
Yeah, easily.
And then, what was it, the Texans-Jets 32.5 or something like that? And then that went over, and the Texans only scored 6 points. And then we had a 3-0 game between the Vikings and Raiders. Yeah. So I would say it was a pretty wild week.
It's hard to guess, and, with the over and unders, I think sometimes. At least this year I've struggled with under overs in the NFL. And, so 3-0 game.
Yeah, and the points didn't come until, the final 2 minutes or so?
Quite literally.
Yeah.
Well, that's why tonight, Thursday night game, Chargers-Raiders, everybody's talking about, nobody's going to score because you got Aiden O'Connell versus Easton Stick in for Justin Herbert. And I do think that the Chargers will struggle because they've struggled with Justin.
Yeah.
And no Keenan Allen.
And no Keenan Allen as well, and Easton Stick is your starting quarterback. But, isn't that just about the time that this guy comes out and pulls a Tommy DeVito?
It could be a really ugly game, too, because it sounds like Josh Jacobs is out for the Raiders, too, the way it's looking. It's just...
So anyways, I still like the Raiders in that game. I just am not touching the over-under.
Right. Yeah, the NFL, just for me this year, it's been a mess, so I'm not afraid to admit that. Let's go ahead, throw up the bet card from Week 14, and collectively, it just was not a good week as a whole here for all of us, but that'll happen from time to time. Me and Jim, we went head-to-head in a bit of a battle there, and came out on top by just the nick of, depending upon what line you were able to get it at, either a point or a half point.
We talking about the Broncos game?
Browns and Jaguars.
Oh yeah, that was frustrating loss to me, as was that Detroit-Chicago over-under. Like I said, over-unders in that fell. You won't see me probably take another one all year. But the Broncos continue to cash for me at a great clip. I don't know when the American betting public's going to catch up and treat the Broncos as one of the better teams in the AFC like they are.
Yeah. They play Detroit this weekend.
Yeah,
so.
that's another one. Everybody's good. And Detroit's the opposite, you know. Detroit comes out and they're America's darling.
Yeah.
And so I think that the American betting public still is going to side with Detroit this week against the Broncos, a team that's won 6 of their last 7.
Yeah.
But that's for another part of our show.
Definitely. Yeah, Kyle, me and you both got burned by the Lions last week in that game. So that game as a whole was just not kind to either one of us or any of us here.
Yeah, moving forward, I'm going to stay away from the Lions. I think this is like the second or third time this year they've cost me. Thanksgiving, I believe I took the Lions. So yeah, they're a trap. I'm not sure if they're as good as their record shows. They've been in a lot of tight games over the last 6 weeks or so.
Since their bye week, they've been terrible.
Yeah.
And who knows if opposing teams have figured out Dan Campbell. But it is what it is. That was a good win for you on the Cowboys. That was an easy one, right?
Yeah, that was no sweat at all.
That was the one that we bullied you into, even there in a way, if I recall right.
Cowboys still haven't lost at home, 7-0, won 5 in a row. Dak Prescott's still playing at a very high level. So yeah, I just like the
fumbled
Cowboys.
it away.
Yeah, the Eagles did hurt themselves quite a bit.
3 fumbles inside their own, or near the red zone at least, from 3 guys that normally you wouldn't expect it. Hurts fumbled, Devontae Smith fumbled, and A.J. Brown fumbled.
Yeah. Yep. At least the Bills got you the win there as well, Kyle.
Yeah, but that touchdown that was called back, that scared me before I knew it was offside because that would have
Right.
probably ruined it all. But yeah, I guess 2-2 isn't terrible, but I really was kind of shocked.
That's right. You went with 4 picks last week.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked though. I really didn't think the Packers would cost me. Tommy DeVito I just doubted him. I didn't think he'd move the ball as well as he did.
It was a trap game. It was. The Giants were coming off a bye. The Packers, all of a sudden, people went from 3-4 weeks ago making fun of Jordan Love to now comparing him to Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
I mean, it was a total trap. It was another primetime game on the road, and yeah, Tommy DeVito's getting comfortable, and the Packers were exposed. And like I said, I took the Giants and took them in the parlay too, and did pretty good.
Yeah, and then speaking of traps for me, Navy, just no regrets. I always enjoy getting in on that game a little bit, even though technically in New York we can't get in on it. But that game did involve arguably either one of the worst bad beats of all time or one of the greatest, in this situation, not wins but pushes of all time, because most lines closed at either 27.5 or 28 in that game, and with the on-purpose safety there at the end by Army, end up making it 28 total points. So end up being chaotic there, both on the field and then across bet windows in America.
Yeah, that's how it goes. It's people, you can be right and still be wrong.
Yeah. I know. Obviously, this portion of it's not betting, but I'm happy to see with Army's joining the American Conference next year.
I know, it's all over the news.
Right.
That's all you hear
But,
about, Army joining the American Conference.
Well, but they're keeping that game technically as a non-conference game at the end of the year next year. They're going to keep that as is, since Navy's also in the American. So the tradition continues on for the foreseeable future, which is nice. So in a ever-evolving landscape of college athletics, at least. So, hey, speaking of college, I do want to spend a minute here. Bowl season is upon us. We touched a little bit on it last week, but that was more for the playoff end of it. Bowls begin this weekend, and I do have one bit of advice, and I think it's at this point you're kind of being a dead horse with it, but always wait closer to game time with bowl games, because especially here locally with us, you think about, right, Syracuse, and even though we can't bet Syracuse, and they are one of the teams at the moment actually that doesn't have a ton of people opting out of the bowl outside of people who have gone into the window, or the portal rather, and that's only a handful of guys right now. You don't know what coaches are going to be there or not be there coaching. You don't know what players will be on the field either playing or not.
That's so dumb.
Yeah. So the thing is, and it's crazy, I don't want to pick one game in particular or not here, But the one game that sticks out to me, at least this weekend, is the LA Bowl, for example. You have Boise State against UCLA. And on paper, if you were to ask me a couple weeks ago at the end of the regular season, I'd probably lean UCLA.
-4.
Right. But in that time, they've lost their defensive coordinator and half the defensive coaching staff. They won't be coaching this game. They're minus a couple players on the offensive side. And that's swung me to the point where now I'm leaning, taking the 4 points and going with Boise State. And it's one of those things you have to really pay attention to this time of year where, yeah, you have to trust your notebook a little bit, but you also have to trust what you see coming out in the depth charts and the rosters going into game time.
And if the only reason to watch any of these games is because you're betting, I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, it's so stupid.
Yeah, we'll have the NFL on at the same time, so that's where I'll be.
Saturday, yeah.
I
Yeah,
care
3
about
games.
Syracuse's game.
Yep, and that too.
And, you know, but other than that, if you're not a fan of an individual school, like these December bowl games and holiday week bowl games outside the college football playoff are just, why?
I mean, I can't get you interested in the famous Toastery Bowl that replaced the Bahamas Bowl this year.
Well, I did, you know, there's a lot of hype this week about the Avocados from Mexico Cure Bowl.
That's true.
And then you got the Isleta New Mexico Bowl. So, I mean, these are things that everybody's talking about. They just can't wait to see the teams get on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the Bull Pick'em as usual with that on ESPN.
That's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I like going through and I like doing them. We got a group of us that, you know, we're season ticket holders up at Syracuse, so we just kind of, as a group, just kind of do it for fun and kind of see what happens a little bit. And, you know, really over the past few years since getting the season tickets, I've become more engrossed and ingrained in the college football side of things. So it's always fun, and there's always, you know, each bowl, yeah, some of them are really stupid, but, you know, there's always some certain fun ones too that kind of I think people forget about. Like, for example, there's one that I believe it's technically the second longest continuous bowl, the Sun Bowl, and it kind of gets forgotten about because now it's just viewed as one of those B or C tier bowl games. But
Yeah, your Independence
pretty,
Bowl,
yeah.
Syracuse played in before
Right.
back in the 80s. There's all these long-running bowl games. But again, like you say, you don't know who's going to be playing, who's going to not be playing. You got teams going for national championships in the college football playoff where some of their best players are opting out because they don't want to get hurt before going to the NFL. And it's just the whole sport of college football is just so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you look at it, and it's really the only sport within the college scope that does that. You don't see guys opting out of the NCAA basketball tournaments or College World Series or your Frozen Fours or anything like that. It's really I guess in this situation, it's the outlier of the group in a way.
Yeah, it's another stupid thing, like I say, about college football nowadays. But maybe I'll feel different after a year or two into the Fran Brown era.
Yeah, it's been fun with that.
'Cause he is getting it
that could be
done.
its entire. It could be that could be its entire own like separate like one-off podcast at the moment where it's like it's. When was the last time we've had Syracuse be the ones causing chaos in the transfer and recruiting stuff all of a
Fran
sudden?
Brown is here, and he is ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable what's going on. It's so funny because I think I was on Twitter or X. You know, just another stupid thing. It's not Twitter anymore. It's X. And, you know, there was we got an Ohio State's quarterback is now transferring to Syracuse.
Not officially,
Well,
but
regardless,
positive.
The fact that is like out there has really rattled some Ohio State fans, and they on Twitter they were like just bashing Syracuse. Like,
it's
he wasn't as good as we thought he was because especially, and it's proven out now that you know he's considering Syracuse, and you know how could you go from the penthouse to the basement, that type of stuff. And then there's other people going down there. Hey man, don't sleep on Fran Brown.
right.
Like it's going to be interesting. I'm glad there's excitement back for the Syracuse football program a little bit here in December, but it's just it's early on, but it's been quite a phenomenon. The Fran Brown experience.
It gets you excited. I mean, like I said, with the season ticket element of it, like the past couple off seasons, it's been one of those things where it's like, yeah, affordability wise, it still makes sense, but it's like, do you really want to keep going and just seeing mediocre at best football in a sense, right? And it's just like now it's
The kid from
Makes you
Texas
really wanna
A&M
see it.
who's in the transfer
Right.
portal was looking at Alabama.
right.
Chose Syracuse.
Yeah.
Alabama fans on
Oh.
Twitter going off. They just
When-
can't understand it.
And that's the thing. I said this the other day. I'm like, when was the last time you saw within this sentence, right? Florida, Georgia, Alabama, A&M, LSU, and Syracuse be the final 6 teams for a kid? And that answer was probably 1961 or something like that.
Maybe
you know.
early 90s.
Well, true. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I'll take it. And yeah, Kyle McCord, I think people kind of forget, he was a 5-star recruit anyway, and Syracuse offered him in the first place. So, yeah, I don't know.
Graham Brown wasn't any part of that offer.
That's correct. That is correct.
So, anyways, that has nothing to do with why we're here, but
We went down the rabbit hole.
Graham Brown is like making an impact.
Orange hysteria is taking over the betting pod. Yeah, I got really nothing else. For me, it's been a quiet week. College basketball, there hasn't been a ton of games because it's finals week for most of the colleges. So there's not, if there are games, it's been Gonzaga's playing Mississippi Valley State, and that line was, depending upon how you got it, was either a close cover or not a close cover, and those have been the games that have been pretty much out there, and that's it. So I guess do we want to get
this week's picks?
Yeah, do we want to get into the picks? All right. Kyle, you went 500 last week, so by that you are the man up first, given the picks.
Yeah, so I actually have a few. I'm still kind of, I guess I'm going to do this on the fly because I couldn't narrow it down to, just a few that I really love. But I think I really like this one. Yeah, out of all the ones, I think I like this the most. I don't trust Nick Mullins and the Vikings, so give me Bengals -3 at home. I think Jake Browning has been actually playing pretty decent for the most part, and they're back in the playoff race.
Yeah, there's no doubt. As a matter of fact, in Cincinnati, they're wondering, if they're just going to eat Joe Burrow's contract or look to trade him.
Yeah. And then this one, I've been thinking about this.
They're not.
Well,
Come on, you guys. That was a joke.
There's actually some validity to that. I'm not. There are rumblings that not the podcast sport, but there are rumblings.
Well, there's no.
Anyways, I like that pick. I agree. The Vikings, it's so funny how the Josh Dobbs explosion has just come to an immediate end, and now they're not even going to start him.
Yep.
He's an aerospace engineer. I don't think you can say that.
Yeah.
All right, so the next one. I'm feeling the New York Jets +8.5 against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are so banged up. They just lost their starting center to a torn ACL, and it's a divisional game. And the Jets and Dolphins did play on Black Friday, and it was just a complete blowout. But Zach Wilson wasn't the quarterback. He's coming off AFC Offensive Player of the Week, his best game of his NFL career. I just feel like the Jets. I said Giants. I feel like the Jets keep that one close. So yeah, give me that Jets +8.5. And the third one's tough. I'm gonna roll with Ravens -3 at Jacksonville. I believe the situation is if they win, they officially clinch a playoff spot, or somehow, some way that works. So yeah, I just think they're gonna be pretty fired up. Trevor Lawrence didn't look too great last week. Couldn't move around as great as he usually could because of that foot or ankle injury that he has. So yeah, I like that. So give me that.
Yeah, I can't argue with those picks. I don't really disagree with any of them. I wish last week that I did a 2-team parlay, AFC, NFC Player of the Week. Zach Wilson and Tommy DeVito probably would have paid for.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
$5 would have won you $2 million.
Yeah. Would have thought. So I don't know. You want me to go, Jim, or do you want?
Yeah, because I got 5 here, and if you double one up, I'll pick a different one.
All right. So I do have one of the bowl games I am taking this week, but it's probably not one that you necessarily think. Florida A&M and Howard meet in the Celebration Bowl. This is a really cool bowl, not to go down the rabbit hole here again, but it recognizes the 2 conference winners of the SWAC and the MEAC. Those are 2 conferences that host the historically black colleges and universities in the Southeast and the East Coast. Florida A&M out of the SWAC, Howard out of the MEAC. Florida A&M is 11-1 on the year. Howard is 6-5. Florida A&M is a 6.5-point favorite. I'm going to take the Rattlers. If you have a moment, go watch that game. It's always fun. I enjoy halftime for that because you get a really good live music from the marching bands, and it's an experience. Anyway, switch over to Pro Ball. Doing Colts -1.5 against the Steelers.
What's wrong with that?
Do the Steelers do anything at this point to really excite anybody with Mitch Trubisky under center? No, not really. And if you're
do much with Pickens under center to excite anybody? I don't think so. I mean, I don't mind that pick. I'm avoiding that game though.
Yeah, it could go sideways, but at least if you, at least with Ryan with the Colts, you have Gardner Minshew to at least go down in a blaze of glory more than likely with that one. So, my other one I'm doing though, and I do not care. It's a little bit, Jim, I think of your logic from last week to a degree. I'm taking the Giants plus 5.5 against the Saints. They got the momentum. The Saints, on the other hand, just enjoy getting in these stupid dogfight games against teams, and when that happens, the games are close. I think 5.5 means that you're on at least a good enough side if it comes down to being obviously a 4 or 3 point game in those situations. So I'm going to take the Giants in New Orleans, riding Tommy Cutlets.
Yeah, I hope you're right.
Yeah.
I hope you're right. I don't know about that one. I don't. Yeah, I hope you're right.
None of the programs really excited me this week spread wise. I'm just going to be honest, but hey, we have to at least pick one around here. So
I feel good about my 3 picks.
Have at it.
They're going to all be from the NFL, but I do want to share a couple of college football picks as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned the Avocados from Mexico Cure Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Try to say that 5 times fast. Miami of Ohio versus Appalachian State, and I like the over 44 in that game. Miami has a great defense. They only surrendered 16.2 points per game, but which was 7th best in the country. Appalachian State, though, averaging 34.8. Appalachian State's played a pretty tough schedule, and I just think that college bowl season, good weather, the Avocados from Mexico Cure Bowl in Orlando, Florida.
I was about to say that. At the bounce house, though.
Yeah. So I think they'll put some points up. So I'll probably do that. But then I also like the Fresno State Bulldogs plus 3.5 versus New Mexico State in the Isleta New Mexico Bowl. Played at the University Stadium in Albuquerque, which is actually at the University of New Mexico, not New Mexico State. So I think that a lot of the bettors are going to be going with New Mexico State because they think it's some kind of a home game. But Fresno State's played in this bowl game before. It's their 4th overall appearance. They've won here just 2 years ago. Fresno State's coach has a 8-3 bowl game record. And New Mexico State's one of those teams that you bet early in the season. Like I bet them, if you remember, in week 1 of this podcast to beat and cover against UMass, and they lost.
Lost outright, yeah.
And so when something like that happens, I kind of follow them for a little bit. I did bet on that. I bet against them and got a win somewhere in the past few weeks. But, again, here we go. I just think Fresno State's plus 3.5.
Oh, it was the conference title game against Liberty.
Yeah, that's right. I took Liberty.
Yeah.
And so I won it. So I'm going to try to win against them again.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, those aren't my picks. I'm sticking NFL. We're going to start out with the Broncos, of course, plus 4.5 against the Lions, at the Lions. I don't know when people are going to understand that the Broncos, if it said Chiefs at Lions, do you think the line would be 4.5?
No.
Saturday night game, 8:15. Since their last week 10, which was the Lions' bye week, they just aren't as good. Their defense is allowed an average of almost 30 points a game, 29.8 points a game. They're 2-3 against the spread. 2 outright losses to the Packers and the Bears. Give me the Broncos. And even at home, the Lions don't really deserve to trust. They didn't cover the spread their last 2 games at home at Ford Field. So give me the Broncos yet again. Even in their loss they covered for me. This is literally going to be like 7 straight wins for me with the Broncos.
Okay. I'm with it. I think that's actually a pretty good, if people dabble, money line bet anyway with Denver. So
yeah, you can get the. I mean, getting the plus 4.5 is like an early Christmas gift. Another Christmas gift in the season of giving, I believe, is the Chiefs minus 7.5 at the Patriots. Now, I know that if you watch any of our programming here, I've been saying all year the Chiefs aren't as good. The Chiefs aren't as good. But the Chiefs have kind of hit rock bottom with that embarrassing, loss against the Bills in the Kadarius Toney situation. And I just think that, at this point where they're mostly out of contention for a number 1 seed, and they really are holding on for their playoff lives in a way if things were to go really south. I just think this is where that kind of stops. This is Andy Reid time. Patrick Mahomes against Brady Zappi. I mean, it's just don't overthink it. It's 7.5 points. If this game was played in September, the line would have been 15. So, like I say, the Chiefs have had a tough go of it, but in games against teams with fewer than 6 wins, they're 4-0 with an average scoring margin of 16. So the Patriots happen to have fewer than 6 wins, a lot fewer, and I'm not going to overthink it. We're going Chiefs, -7.5. That's a 1 o'clock Sunday game. Another 1 o'clock Sunday game, and another one that I think is just I don't really understand and don't want to overthink it. It's Falcons -3 against the Panthers.
Yeah, I like that one.
At Carolina, who cares? Atlanta beat the Panthers 24-10 in Week 1, long time ago, and you can argue that Carolina's no better now than they were back in Week 1. Interim coach now on top of it, Chris Tabor, team like. When you think of the Carolina Panthers, what comes into your head? What's their identity?
Chaos.
There's no identity. There's no offensive identity. There's no defensive identity.
They get blown out a lot.
So horrible run defense. They've allowed the most touchdowns in the league, rushing 21, and then the Falcons got good running backs and a good running game. So the Falcons only lost 1 game in division, and that was last week to Tampa Bay. So I don't see it happening here. And 3 points, I think, is an insult when you got the worst team in the league going. So those are my picks: Broncos +4.5, Chiefs -7.5, Falcons +3, and feeling really good about it.
Yeah, the Carolina thing's interesting too. I don't know if you guys saw, but on the old Twitter or X machine or whatever the hell we're calling it next week, one of the coach's wives who was retained after Frank Reich got fired, I don't know how she found this person's tweet, post, whatever the hell it is, but more or less said that, all the coaches that are still here are technically fired, but have been retained to finish the year. And it's a very strange thing going on in Carolina.
Yeah, meanwhile, the Falcons are playing to win the division and go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on. Don't overthink it, especially this late in the year. Don't overthink it when they're giving it to you. And, of course, anything can happen in this crazy league. So don't want to sound overconfident. But
Right.
There's one over-under that I like.
Sure.
The Rams have been putting up a lot of points. They did it last week against the Ravens, but I just think that 15.5. I mean, I expected to somewhat be a high-scoring game, but I think 15.5 is just a bit too
who are they
high.
playing?
The Rams and the Commanders.
Howdy.
Oh, that's right.
So
Sam Howell does like to throw the ball. There
Yeah.
should be some points in that game, but that is a lot.
I'm just not sure. Yeah, it goes over 15.5, so I might take the under on that. I'm sure it's going to move more because I think it was a little more, and then it's dropped a little bit.
I like the Rams to win and cover. What's the
6.5.
yeah. I still like the Rams to win and cover.
I see a lot of people.
Same, Jim, but for all different reasons altogether at this point.
I've been seeing a lot of people on Twitter, I guess, saying that the Cardinals are going to cover. What do you guys think about that against the Niners?
Yeah, it's
12.5.
a divisional game.
Yeah.
The same Cardinals team that beat the Cowboys, remember? And it's a divisional game. It's a lot of points in a divisional game.
What's the line at now, Kyle?
12.5.
12.5?
It's in Arizona. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to stay away from that, of course.
I
But
probably will too, but if you held a gun to my head, I would take the Cardinals.
Starts entering interesting territory if that thing drops like a whole point, which is possible still at this point, but I don't know.
You can
We'll
always
see.
tease it.
Yeah, that's correct there. Sorry if I just rattle off my bowl picks for the week that carry through to next Thursday. Bowl games quick. Okay. Myrtle Beach Bowl, first bowl game that gets going. I have Ohio against Georgia Southern.
What a matchup. I mean, I've been
Hey, the MAC,
I've
baby.
been up all night wondering about, who's going to prevail in that one.
Bobcats against Falcons, maybe some type of bird.
Myrtle Beach.
Eagles. Yeah, but I'm taking Ohio +3.5. Already did the Celebration Bowl, the New Orleans Bowl, Louisiana and Jacksonville State. I'm doing Jack State -2.5. Unfortunately, well, I guess maybe not unfortunately, because you did over/under on this game, Jim, the Cure Bowl. I'm doing Miami +6.5 against App State. I think some people are betting App State, overthinking the way they actually kind of played all year to a certain degree and
They
certain
beat
level.
James
but-
Madison.
Yeah, but just collectively, though, I
The
think there
MAC
might be
is
some
not very
stuff.
good in bowl games
It's true.
historically.
That is true. So, I don't know. I'm going to go Red Hawks there, though. This is the one, though, where I am opposite of you, Jim, so it's a good thing we aren't involved in a lock battle here for our picks. I'm doing New Mexico State minus the 3.5. Fresno State's, they've just burned me too many times this year, so.
And they're about to do it again.
Probably
except
just on the
other
opposite end, yeah. The LA Bowl, I mentioned already, I'm taking Boise State +4. The Independence Bowl, I'm taking Cal +3 against Texas Tech. I think the Pac-12 goes out on a high note.
And Cal ends up in the ACC.
Right. The famous Toastery Bowl, I'm taking Western Kentucky.
What's that one?
Famous Toastery.
Famous Toastery, yes. How could I forget?
Charlotte.
I've been waiting for this one since July.
I'm taking Western Kentucky +2.5 against Old Dominion. A couple old CUSA rivals going at it in that one. And then Frisco Bowl on Tuesday next week. Marshall and UTSA. I'm actually laying the 13 with UTSA, which pains me. I love Marshall, the aesthetics of them, but gotta take the
I
Roadrunners.
think App State crushed Marshall this year, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's weird about talking about it. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I get too involved with bowl season. So, what are we gonna do?
It's that time of year.
Yep, I'm the sicko of us all here. So I think on that note, we're pretty much good to go. Unless I missed something.
Here's an update on the Vikings.
Oh.
Justin Jefferson's questionable, and not only is Josh Dobbs being benched, he's not even going to be the second quarterback. They're moving him as the emergency quarterback. Jaron Hall is the second string.
What the heck? What a
Wait.
world, huh?
Jaron Hall from BYU, I believe, right?
Second string, yes.
Wow.
So they really must have gotten pissed off with Josh Dobbs because he's the emergency quarterback.
Yeesh.
So yeah, Justin Jefferson's questionable. We'll see what happens. But yeah, give me Cincinnati -3 at home.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Isn't Madison more than likely out
He's
too?
out. They just rolled him out.
I mean, that's probably one of those I'd jump on that before that line grows.
Yeah, I thought it would change right now. I got it up. It's probably going to change any minute.
Yeah. So I think on that note, we're good to go, right?
Yep.
All right, sweet. All right, appreciate everybody for tuning in and listening. Be back at it next Thursday because Christmas is on the weekend this year, more or less. So we don't have to
Monday
worry about all
Christmas,
that.
right? Sunday
Yeah.
Christmas Eve, Monday Christmas. So we'll have all your Christmas weekend betting picks.
Yeah, share with your family Christmas Eve. How about that? All right, appreciate everybody for listening and tuning in. We will see everybody next Thursday.